Welcome to Too Fond of Books. My name is Janelle and this is a tag video. I was tagged by Berna from Berna's Bookish Adventures to do the This is Jeopardy book tag. Now this was created by Naomi from Naomi's Bookshelf, kind of in honor of Alex Trebek, who famously hosted the game show This is Jeopardy. And this is a really fun tag, so thank you so much, Berna, for tagging me. Now, Berna also gave me an additional challenge to see if I could answer all of these questions with mysteries. And so I decided to take her up on the challenge. So we shall see how I do. The first prompt is the host. Talk about a narrator you love. And so for that, I have to go with Marion Halcombe from The Woman in White. She is only one of the narrators in this book, but she is fantastic. I love the character of Marion, and I love hearing the story from her point of view. She is such a great character. She is strong and determined and really cares about her sister, and she will do anything she needs to do to help and protect her sister. She's such a great character. So Marion Halcombe for sure. All right, now the categories. So this tag was created by using some of the famous categories from the game. So category number 1 is before and after. And here you want to do a combination of 2 book titles. Now, technically, you're just supposed to have one answer for this, but I had such a good time with this, and my husband Aaron got involved, and we were scouring our bookshelves and calling out possibilities. So I have a few here. So the first couple are strict combinations of 2 book titles. So for example, I guess we gotta do it this way. Last seen wearing a brood of vipers. I like it. Or how about out of the blackout, a long shadow? Not bad, hey? Or how about unusual uses for olive oil and one for the dead? I had way too much fun with this. How about, here we go. Cats prowl at night and only to deceive. Ooh. Now this next one, I did, and I put the word "and" in between to make it work. So we have a touch of frost and royal blood. I like it. And the next one, we did a mingling of titles, and I thought this was very clever. So we have Dark Death and Blintzes. This way out of the blackout. Do you see what we're doing there? I think it's very clever. And then finally, a regimental murder on the Flying Scotsman. Yes! Now, just so you know, Berna, I'm sure if you're watching this, those were all mysteries. So, yes! Alright, prompt number 2 is Science, a book that made you react. And for that I had to go with a reread that I just recently finished, and this is Echoes of Lies by Jo Bannister. And this is a book about a woman who runs an agency called Looking for Something, and she gets asked to find a man called Daniel Hood, and all they had to go on is a photograph. And a story was given about why they needed to find him. So she did her job and she found him. And then he subsequently got kidnapped and tortured and left for dead. And so she, of course, is feeling all kinds of guilt and remorse. And then the story goes on from there. And it was so good. I definitely reacted. I tabbed it, and I never tab mysteries, but it was just so interesting looking at how everybody reacted to what had happened. Yeah, so this was definitely a book that made me react. The third prompt is literature, your current read. And I am currently reading The Pigeon Pie Mystery by Julia Stewart. Now this is this is fantastic. I'm only just barely started into it. I'm on page 29. But it is so fun. I love it already. It is charming and delightful and quirky. It is a historical mystery set in the Victorian time period, and the main character is Princess Alexandrina, nicknamed Mink, and her maid Pookie. She's born and grew up in England, but her father is an exiled Maharaja and her mother is an Englishwoman. And her mother dies when she's a child, and her father, when the book opens, her father has just passed away and she needs somewhere to live. The house has to be sold to pay off his debts. And so the Queen gives her a grace and favor home at Hampton Court Palace. And so they've just decided to take up that offer at the point where I am in the book. And of course, according to the synopsis, we find out that they meet some of the characters who live at Hampton Court Palace, and one of those characters dies after eating a pigeon pie that Pookie makes. And so of course Mink has to investigate in order to help out her maid and friend Pookie. Okay, number 4, American History, a book that embodies your culture. I immediately thought of this, A Prairie Alphabet by Yvette Moore and Joe Bannatyne Cudgett. And now this is 100% my culture. I am a prairie girl. I grew up on the prairies. Let's see, does that work? My great-grandparents homesteaded on the prairies, and my grandfather and grandmother were farmers on the prairies, and for a number of years my dad worked in a wheat pool. It was an Alberta wheat pool, but still it looked very much like that. So this book is not a mystery, but I couldn't help myself because it is just so very much a book about my culture. I am a prairie girl. I love the wide open spaces. I love the fields of grain. Yeah. So yeah. But keeping in mind Berna's challenge of finding a mystery, I also thought that I would pull this one out. And this is Gail Bowen's A Colder Kind of Death. And Gail Bowen is a Saskatchewan mystery writer. This is from her Joanne Kilbourne series, and this is set in Regina, which is the city where I currently live, in the province where I currently live, and so it is definitely a book that embodies my culture. And it's a mystery, so there you go. Okay, number 5, Potpourri, a book that had everything thrown at it. I've taken this book back to the library, so I'm going to put a picture in here. It's Close to Home by Kara Hunter. I did a whole video on this, and I'll link to it here in the cards. But it really did have everything thrown at it. I felt like she chose to kind of throw in every device that she could. So it's a non-linear timeline, first person, present tense, multimedia. I can't remember. Like, there was just everything was in this book. Oh yeah, and then it didn't stay first person. It also went to third person at times, and so yeah, it just had everything. 6, World History, a book about a culture different than yours. And here I chose to go with Precious and Grace by Alexander McCall Smith, and this is a mystery set in Botswana. I love this series. I call them gentle. They're gentle mysteries, but I love the characters, and I love how much you can tell the author loves this place. And he's been to Botswana. He was born in Zimbabwe, and I love that he ends his books like this diamond here. It's just Africa. So yeah, Precious and Grace. 7, Word Origin, a translated book. And for this, I'm going with I Am Your Judge by Nele Neuhaus. This is a book set in Germany and translated from the German by, hang on, Stephen T. Murray. Now, I've read a number of books in this series, and I really like this series. I haven't read this one yet. This is Police Procedurals with Pia Kirchhoff and Oliver von Bodenstein. And this is a really great, actually, a really great police procedural series. Okay, number 8. Colleges and Universities, the best book you read in school. This one was hard. I can't remember what I read in school, to be honest. It was so long ago, and when I was in college, I pretty much only read what I was supposed to read, the textbooks and stuff. And, but I did think of one. Now, I'm sure I read mysteries, I just can't remember. And so I'm sure I would have read Agatha Christie, or kind of like, it would have been whatever my parents had in their library when I was home for reading week or Christmas break or whatever. But I do remember reading the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It was kind of like a tradition of mine to read it at Christmas break. And so this is the one where I failed, and I'm sorry, Berna, but the Lord of the Rings is not a mystery, but that is my answer for this question. And number 9, history, your favorite time period to read about. This was hard for me because I have a lot of favorite time periods, but in the end I decided to go with the Georgian era, which is 1714 to 1837, and I decided on this because it includes the Regency, and I absolutely love the Regency time period too. And so some of the reasons why I love reading about this time period, and it's a great time period for historical mysteries, is because it was the birth of the Industrial Revolution. This period saw the abolition of the slave trade and the expansion of the British Empire. It included the American Revolutionary War, the French Revolutionary War, and the Napoleonic War. This was the period of writers like Jane Austen and Wordsworth and Shelley and Coleridge and Henry Fielding and Mary Shelley and William Blake and Lord Byron and Robert Burns. It was an era of the arts where you had Capability Brown, the famous landscape gardener. Gainsborough and Turner and Constable were painters. Handel, Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven, and Mendelssohn were composers. And it was a great era for architecture. It was a time of scientific and medical discovery. And you also had famous characters, let's call them, from the period, like the Prince Regent and the fashion of Beau Brummel. Like it's just such a rich time period. 10, sports, a fast-paced book. Here I decided to go with Evil Games by Angela Marson, and I'll put a picture in here. This is a D.I. Kim Stone book. I think it's the second in the series. I'm not entirely sure. It counts. It's a mystery. It's a police procedural. And in this book was very fast-paced. D.I. Kim Stone goes head-to-head with a sociopath, and it was really good. All right, so those are the official 10 questions. But I couldn't help myself, and I'm going with a bonus tribute here. I have 5 books with titles in the form of a question. Are you ready? We have Mary Stewart's Madam, Will You Talk? Patricia Wentworth, Anna, Where Are You? Sheila Radley, Who Saw Him Die? John Greenwood, What, me, Mr. Mosley? And finally, Georgette Heyer, Why Shoot a Butler? So there you go. That was my bonus tribute there. The last thing I need to do is tag some people. This is a really fun tag that is pretty easy to do. And I'm curious to see what other people are going to give for their answers. So I tag Jeremy from Jeremy Fee, Simon and Amy from BookTube with Simon and Amy, Rainy from Rainy Day Reads, and Danny from Spinelli Speaks. I would love to see your answers to these questions, so you are tagged. And I will see you in another video soon. Bye.